All right, you could go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Omar Mohammed. My group member Destiny Davis and I will present in Chapter 15, Leading Change. So I want to begin with quoting this. The hard fact is that most people don't like change. Isn't that so? That that's most of us don't like to make change in our life. So for example, a change in lifestyle habits, even for seemingly simple changes. Within organizations, leaders always encounter some degree of resistance when they attempt to implement changes. Change is necessary if organizations are to survive and thrive. For example, the leader of an organization that wants to change the working hours. So this may be essential for the business in terms of making change in the business itself, but it does not seem ideal to the employee, right? It seems like a turn off for them. Next slide. I am sure you recognize this item in the photo. What is it? A light bulb, right? So my presentation is based on the part of the chapter that focuses on change in the business world, right? So for example, the squiggly light bulb that I just showed you all, it is said that it lasts longer than the average bulb and more environmentally friendly, but the problem is it costs more. So these compact fluorescent bulbs have been around for more than 20 years. In the early 1900s, it was invented by a company called Philips. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that brand. The company spent millions on research, development, and marketing, and since have been trying to get people to use it, but people still reach for the bell-shaped bulb because the price is a turn off for consumers. As a consumer, you're looking for the cheapest price, so you see anything cheaper, it doesn't matter if it's better or if it isn't. You don't want to spend a lot amount of money. So Philips and a rival company called General Electric, they created a campaign to make the compact bulb the first choice for homes and businesses. So for example, General Electric, they teamed up with Walmart to educate customers on the product, while Philips is sending marketers to talk to city governments around the globe. Slide. This deals with change or perish. So the diagram below depicts the process of change. Change yourself, then modify your environment for change, then transition yourself to be ready for change, then transform, then shift your process, and then finally adjust to a new change. So there's a quote here by Jack Welch, which states, when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, the end is in sight, right? So you top right, you will see Jack Welch. And Jack Welch, he was the former longtime chairman and CEO of the company I was just speaking about, General Electric. He emphasized the fact that internal organizational changes must keep pace with what is happening in the external environment. When social, economic, and technical changes rapidly begin, it means that organizations have to be perpetually changing and adapting to the pace, otherwise they will fail. So failure to adapt to all these changes in the environment is a big problem for today's organizations. And a primary solution to this problem is better change leadership. Just change the leadership, find new people. Leaders serve as a main role model for change and provide the motivation and communication to keep change efforts moving forward. This slide deals with be the change. So as a leader, you need to be the change and have certain characteristics in order to make that change. So strong committed leadership is crucial to successful change, and the research has identified some key characteristics of leaders who can accomplish successful change projects. So you can see 5 here. Number 1, they define themselves as change leaders rather than people who want to maintain the status quo. So they want to pass the bar, they want to surpass others, right? They want to innovate. Number 2, they demonstrate courage. Number 3, they believe in employees' capacity to assume responsibility. Number 4, they are able to assimilate and articulate values that promote adaptability. Number 5, they recognize and learn from their own mistakes. This slide here deals with leading a major change. Leaders must recognize that the process of change happens through many stages, and each stage is crucial to the process. The leaders are the ones responsible for guiding the company and its employees through the change process. There are 8 stages that leaders must pay careful attention to fully implement this change. Skipping stages or making any critical mistakes at any stage can cause the change process to fail, right? So here are all the 8 stages. So stage 1, leaders establish a sense of urgency that change is really needed. So as a leader, you need to be able to allocate sectors in your business that needs change and tackle those areas urgently, right? Stage 2, and this involves establishing a coalition with enough power to guide the change process and then developing a sense of teamwork among the group. Stage 3, developing a vision and strategy. So as a leader needs to firstly have the vision and to be able to see the end goal, and then you have to strategize. That leader has to strategize and come up with strategies to reach the vision, to reach that end goal, right? Stage 4, leaders use every means possible to widely communicate the vision and strategy. So leaders should use any way possible for employees to understand this vision and see what he is seeing as a leader and the strategy that needs to be taken in order to pursue this vision in the first place, right? Stage 5, this involves empowering employees throughout the organization to act on the vision. Stage 6, leaders generate short-term wins. So to reach this goal, there's going to be a lot of steps to be taken, right? So a leader can use getting through each step as a short-term win and provide a type of incentive for employees, right? Stage 7 keeps up the urgency. So as a leader, you can't let your coworkers slack off or get comfortable. They need to understand the urgency and keep it up, right? Stage 8, finally, this is what leaders make the changes stick, right? So you as a leader can't let all that hard work to make change go to waste. You need to make sure your coworkers get accustomed with this change so it could stick. Next slide. This deals with leading everyday change. So good leaders work daily to gradually shift attitudes, assumptions, and behaviors towards a desired future. The nature of leadership means to influence others in many small ways on a regular basis. But however, sometimes leaders may see that significant changes are to be made, but they are constrained by various circumstances and has the fear that with their bold moves, it may cause strong resistance. So I'll be showing you down below some strategies that leaders can use for everyday change that will have significant and constructive impact on persons throughout the entire organization, right? The strategies range from the individual leader working alone to effect gradual change to working with others directly in a more directed and extensive way or effort, right? So here you could see creative self-expression, right words, right opportunities, and alliance building, right? Next slide. This deals with leading for innovation. So what must one do to survive in the 21st century, right? I'm sure none of us could give a good answer on that. So this is why top answers from 500 CEOs were practice, creativity, and innovation. But only 6% of the respondents felt that their companies were successful at accomplishing this goal. Leaders in the US, Europe, and Japan recognize that the need for greater innovation to compete globally is needed, right? They're shifting focus from efficiency to fostering creativity and innovation. This shift reflects a transition to a creativity-driven economy. Outsourcing prompts and re-emphasis on creativity and innovation for economic value. Right? Next slide deals with leaders study. So in today's business landscape, leaders are recognizing the importance of fostering a culture that encourages the creation and implementation of new ideas. So they understand that innovation is crucial in order to stay competitive, right, and adapt to changing. Effective leaders actively promote creativity within their organizations, particularly in areas where innovation is essential for success, right? Similarly, well, for example, industries like healthcare and government, where policies and procedures often require frequent updates, leaders should encourage workers to think creatively in addressing these changes. Similarly, in companies that rely on developing new products or services, leaders prioritize the generation and sharing of ideas across different departments. They understand that innovation often arises from collaboration and diverse perspectives, right? A hallmark of successful companies is a culture where every employee is encouraged to contribute new ideas. Leaders recognize that innovation is not limited to a select few, but it can emerge from anyone within the organization. Creativity is seen as a process rather than a one-time event. It involves generating novel and useful ideas that can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. So leaders play a pivotal role in guiding the process and harnessing the creative energy of all employees. So ultimately, leaders must empower their teams to innovate and experiment. So in this way, they could foster a culture where creativity could thrive. And in doing this, the organization could get closer to achieving their end goal, the vision they had. Next slide deals with the creative organization. So leaders play a crucial role in cultivating an environment that fosters creativity and drives innovation within an organization. So exhibit 15.4, which I'll be showing you just now, outlines 5 key elements of innovative organizations, and in its left column, each of which corresponds to characteristics of creative individuals listed on the red column. So you will see here. Exhibit 15.4, characteristics of innovative organizations and creative people. So in innovative organizations, we can see alignment, creative values, unofficial activity, diverse stimuli, and within company communication. And we're going to be tackling all 5 of these. So for alignment, we can see commitment and focused approach. For creative values, we can see interdependence, persistence, and energy. For unofficial activity, we can see self-confidence, non-conformity, and curiosity. Diverse stimuli, open-mindedness, conceptual fluency, and enjoys variety. Finally, within company communication, social competence, emotionally expressive, and loves people. So now we're going to deal with all of these. Firstly, alignment. When the interests and actions of everyone are the same and aligned with the organization's vision, purpose, and goal, it becomes essential for fostering creativity that benefits the entire organization. So by clearly communicating the company's values, promoting the vision, and setting specific goals, leaders play a crucial role in the alignment, because this is what they could give forth to the organization, to their co-workers. Many organizations establish a separate creative departments to focus on innovation. Leaders dedicate energy, time, and resources to activities that encourages innovation. A popular approach to innovation is the idea incubator, used by companies like Boeing, Ziff Davis, and UPS. This provides a safe environment for developing ideas free from company politics. Next slide, we deal with creative value. So spark your creativity, think beyond the box, and have the courage and vision to imagine. You as a leader should be able to do this. But many individuals possess the drive to explore and innovate, but this can be demotivated by strict adherence to rules. and which is often encountered in the early stages of education. So here we're going to see leaders show an entrepreneurial spirit by promoting values of risk-taking and exploring. Leaders have the ability to promote employee motivation for creativity and innovation. Leaders also provide structured systems that would encourage people to brainstorm new ideas, which could lead to a higher number of innovation options. So they won't be limited to one option. They would have multiple ideas to experiment and try and see what works best for their business. An important outcome of this approach is the facilitation of individuals who passionately advocate for a specific idea and can overcome resistance from others and convince them of its value. That one innovative idea, they could convince them of the value of that. Change requires individual energy and effort, and a person with great creative values can ensure valuable ideas are accepted and implemented successfully. Now we're going to deal with unofficial activity. So employees thrive when they have the freedom to explore and experiment beyond their assigned tasks. This allows them to tap into their creativity and potentially uncover innovative solutions or ideas. Leaders play a crucial role in enabling this creative exploration by providing employees with dedicated free time for activities that may not be officially sanctioned. Research indicates that many breakthrough creative ideas occur during these unofficial periods. For example, companies such as 3M and Google have embraced this approach to innovation with notable success. For instance, 3M iconic post-it notes. This originated from an engineer's experimentation during their free time with a colleague's unsuccessful adhesive formula. So he learned from another coworker's mistakes from their failures. This freedom to explore led to the discovery of a practical and widely used product. Similarly, Google encourages innovation by allowing employees to spend 20% of their work week on personal projects, even if they are not directly related to the company's core mission. This policy has resulted in the development of several innovative products and features that have contributed to Google's success. So basically, by giving employees the time to pursue their own ideas, organizations could tap into the full potential of their workforce and help foster that culture of innovation and creativity, basically. Next slide. Diverse stimuli. So the concept behind what I was speaking about before, the post-it notes, originated when an engineer encountered a recurring problem with his bookmarks falling out of his church hymnal, right? This shows that creativity arises unexpectedly, thus making it challenging to predict the specific triggers for innovative ideas. By providing a conductive environment, this makes a leader role vital to foster this. This involves exposing employees to diverse stimuli and experiences that can inspire innovative thinking. So for example, companies like Hallmark, Bell Laboratories, Nortel Networks actively seek external perspectives by inviting speakers from various fields to share their insights. Leaders can further promote creativity by exposing employees to diverse experiences. So by offering opportunities for employees to collaborate with individuals outside the industry, it can help stimulate their creativity and stimulate an innovative idea, right? Next slide. This deals with internal communication. Creativity ignites when individuals from diverse backgrounds and expertise levels interact frequently within the organization. So this interaction allows for a type of like cross-pollination of ideas and perspectives. So leaders play a critical role in creating an environment that fosters open communication and collaboration across organizational boundaries. So by encouraging dialogue and breaking down silos, leaders can facilitate the change of, for example, at Electrolux CEO Hans Straberg implemented a new approach to product development that involved close collaboration among designers, engineers, marketers, and production personnel. This collaborative effort resulted in a successful product like the Pronto cordless stick vacuum, which quickly gained a significant market share in Europe. Engineers at Electrolux such as Giuseppe Frucco noted that the collaborative approach has transformed the way new products are developed, enhancing creativity and efficiency while also reducing the cost. Leaders can leverage the characteristics of innovative organizations to ignite creativity, not only within specific departments, but also across the entire organization. This involves fostering a culture that values experimentation, embraces diversity, and encourages risk-taking. I'll be passing you on to my group member, Destiny Davis.
Thank you, Umar. So guys, I know that it was a lot of information to consume, but bear with us. So now would take us into leaders' self-insight. And my question to you guys is, do you have a creative personality? I would like each and every one of you to sit and think, do I have a creative personality? And then we'll move on to a short activity. So within this activity, I would like us to examine ourselves and select an adjective that describes your personality. Are you confident, feeling or showing confidence in oneself? Honest, having the quality of being fair and truthful? How about intelligent, having and showing excellence? Mannerly, well-mannered, courteous and polite? Snobbish, very arrogant and harsh? Humorous, a funny person? Inventive, have the ability to create or design new things? Or are you a reflective person, someone that thinks carefully? Can I get two persons at least to volunteer and share with us what are two adjectives from here that you would choose that describes your personality? And if possible, why?
I would say mannerly and humorous.
Okay, nice. Would you like to share why?
I'm not sure. I think that that's just how I am, I guess.
Okay, nice. Anybody else? Okay, I guess not. Moving on. Thank you, Shania. So here's an image of various personalities. We have Mr. Quiet, Mr. Happy, Mr. Stubborn, Mr. Rush, Mr. Perfect, Mr. Messy, just to name a few. And I'm sure that each one of us have encountered some sort of personality, whether it may be at home, in our community, and workplace, at school, at some point in our lives. But before we move on to the characteristics of a creative person, would anyone like to share what do they think would be considered a characteristic of a creative person? Don't be shy. Or I could just call someone if you all want.
Flexibility.
Okay. Flexibility. Anything else?
Open imagination.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. If anybody have anything else to say, they could unmute and say. Okay, so that was some really, really great ones. Flexibility and open imagination. So that was good. So moving on, we have the characteristics of a creative person. These people tend to be very curious, independent, ambitious, passionate, a dreamer, and even a risk taker. Next slide. leading creative people. How can leaders increase individual creativity? We have brainstorming, lateral thinking, and creative intuition. Sorry. Brainstorming is one good way leaders can encourage creativity, right? Where they set up brainstorming sessions. Let's assume an organization faces a problem, right? Here's where brainstorming causes them to use that face-to-face interaction to suggest a wide range of creative ideas to solve a problem. So brainstorming would be one way in which leaders can increase individual creativity through a means of brainstorming. But however, there are keys to effective brainstorming, right? So we're going to look at criticism. Group members should not criticize or evaluate ideas in any way during the generation of ideas. All ideas should simply be considered valuable. Freewheeling is welcomed. People should feel free to express any idea that comes to mind, no matter how weird or fanciful it may sound. And lastly, quantity desired. In brainstorming, the goal is to generate as many as possible. Why? Because the more ideas, the better. We will now move on to lateral thinking. And this is the ability to think outside the box and generate creative ideas as opposed to logical thinking. So for instance, if a lateral thinker wants to iron a piece of clothing where there is no power, they may use a baking sheet on a gas stove to iron it. And following, we have creative intuition. Creative intuition is the ability to understand or recognize something instantly without the use of conscious reasoning, often displayed as a quote-unquote gut feeling. For example, let's say in a business, a manager has a feeling that a particular decision is risky. Despite the data supporting it, he chooses to hold it off. Why? Because of that intuition or quote unquote gut feeling. So let me just recap. Bear with us, guys. I just spoke to you all about the various personalities of a creative person, well, of any individual, the characteristics of a creative person, and some techniques in which leaders can increase individual creativity. Next slide. Now let's look at implementing change. The term change refers to the process of transitioning from one state, condition, or situation to another. But I have a question for you guys. By a show of hands, how many of us like to embrace change? How many of us like to embrace change? Only Denise? Why Denise? Would you like to share with us briefly?
Change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very nice. And you are right. Well, leaders often see innovation, change, and creativity as a way to strengthen the organization. But many people view change only as painful and disruptive. Moving forward, here are a few reasons why employees resist change. We have lack of communication. Employees may resist change if they feel that they have not been adequately informed or involved in a decision-making process. When they are left out of the loop, they are more likely to resist changes that are imposed on them without their input. So for instance, I'll give you all an example. I remember when I was told about my manager came up to me and she told me that I would be moving to another branch, but she only told me that 1 or 2 days before. So in that sense, I was now very resistant to the change because okay, it came up on me very suddenly. I began to feel a bit uneasy, fearful because of the what ifs, you know. So I would say that communication is very important when it comes to wanting to change others in an organization. And one of the reasons why employees would resist change is lack of communication. So because my manager would have come up to me and mentioned that to me only 2 days before the day I was supposed to start at the new branch, it now caused me to feel very resistant, very disruptive, very hurt and disturbed, right? Moving on, we will have fear of the unknown. It is natural for people to avoid uncertainty and risk. The fear of the unknown can cause resistance to change, as employees may be relevant or unwilling to try new things if they are uncertain of the outcome. So for me, in my instance, I was a bit uncertain of what might take place in that new branch. Who am I going to meet there? What is it going to be like? This is going to be something new to me. So of course, I had a sense of fear within me because of the unknown. We will now move on to loss of control. Most employees often feel a sense of ownership and control over their work and environment. And change can make them feel like their control is being taken away, thereby causing them to protect their turf by resisting the change. So if a leader now goes to an employee, right, wanting to make changes, but he does it in a way or she does it in a way that is very sudden, more than likely, most times, this person may feel a bit discouraged. You may feel as though, my gosh, I'm coming out of my comfort zone. What am I going to come against now? I'm already comfortable with the work I'm doing. I'm already comfortable with the people that I'm around, right? So it makes that individual feel as though the control that they once had in that particular environment that they were in, they would no longer have that control when they reach into their new environment. And lastly, we have conflict with status quo. Employees may resist change because they are comfortable with the way things are going on in their comfort zone and do not see a need for change. So some people they resist change because they are so comfortable with where they are, what they are doing, so they don't see a need for change. In other words, right? So a few reasons why employees resist change is because of lack of communication, fear of the unknown, loss of control, and comfort with status quo. I will now move on to implementation tools. Here are some implementation tools when implementing change. Communication. Open and honest communication is the single most effective way to overcome resistance to change. Why? Because it reduces uncertainty, gives people a sense of control, clarifies the benefits of the change, and builds trust. So when a leader has open and honest communication with their staff or with individuals, it is much easier in terms of it reduces uncertainty, as I mentioned before. It now builds trust, and people now have a sense of control. It is important that leaders communicate with people face to face rather than relying solely on electronic communication or memos. For example, the CEO of one information technology company embarking on a major reconstruction held a meeting with all employees to explain the changes, answer questions, and reassure people that changes were not going to result in job losses. So here we can follow from this CEO's footstep in which he decided to hold a face-to-face meeting and reassure his workers that this change that we're going to make, guys, is not going to result in the loss of your jobs. You know, they were free to ask any questions, etc. So this is how we are required to be as leaders. Secondly, we have involvement, or in other words, employee involvement, which is the involvement of employees in the change process, which can help increase buy-in and reduce resistance. Leaders can now request feedback, involve employees in decision making, and empower them to be part of the change implementation process. Training. Employees frequently need training to acquire skills for their roles in the change process or their responsibilities. Leaders should offer training programs, workshops, and resources to help employees development the skills needed to succeed in the new environment. Great change leaders make sure individuals get training to feel comfortable with their new tasks. And lastly, we have cohesion. As a last resort, leaders overcome resistance by threatening employees with the loss of jobs or promotions, or by firing or transferring them. Cohesion may be necessary in crisis situations when a rapid response is needed. Cohesion may also be needed for administrative changes that flow from the top down, such as downsizing the workforce. However, this approach to change is not advisable because it leaves people angry at their leaders, and the change may be sabotaged. Leaders at Raytheon Missile Systems faced an urgent need for change, but they wisely realized that participation and involvement, communication and training would lead to a far better result rather than trying to force change on employees. So this is also a wonderful example to follow through as well with what this company did, right? They realized that communication is important, employee involvement is important, effective training is important in order for things to move smoothly in the long run. I will now move on to leadership and downsizing. Leadership and downsizing. Downsizing is a process of reducing the size of a company's workforce or operations in order to cut costs, increase efficiency, or adapt to changing market conditions. This involves laying off employees, closing facilities, and/or eliminating certain production services, right? So here we have on the left-hand corner is a employee. He's packing his things to leave. On the right-hand side, we would see a couple of employees being laid off. At the bottom right, we would see a scissors just demonstrating a cut in employees, right? Just to give you all a few examples of what I am coming to, right? Moving forward. You may ask, you may want to know, what causes a company to downsize? An organization may choose to downsize for several reasons. Some cases include increased productivity. With fewer employees, each individual may have a higher workload, leading to a great sense of productivity and accountability. Secondly, we have cost cutting. Downsizing can lower labor costs as fewer salaries, benefits, and overhead expenses are incurred. This cost saving can be redirected towards investments in technology innovation or other strategic initiatives. And lastly is bankrupt, just in case a company becomes bankrupt, right? Moving forward. Smooth downsizing process. So now we're just going to go through a few steps in how downsizing in an organization can be done smoothly without conflict. Firstly, provide notice. Leaders should provide advance notice with as much information as possible. I'm very sure we can all relate to this. If you're in an organization, we won't want things to just be dropped on us suddenly and unexpectedly. We would want to at least have notice, advance notice, so that we could prepare ourselves, right? So it's important for us to be providing notice to individuals. Secondly, we have offer incentive. Another option is to offer incentive packages for employees to leave voluntarily and offer alternative work arrangements such as job sharing, and part-time work. So some incentives could be offered. For instance, as I mentioned before, job sharing, or even if we can help out in some part-time work, right? And thirdly, we have supply assistance, providing assistance to displaced workers, such as through training programs, extended benefits, and outplacement assistance for employees, can ease trauma associated with a job loss. Right? So applying assistance is very thoughtful as a leader to their employees, especially those that they are downsizing, because we never know where or when they would be able to be on their feet again, or when they'll be able to get another job again. So it's so important to be there for our staff, whether they are with us now or not. Moving forward, I will now go through a summary with you guys. Tools and approaches are available to assist leaders in facilitating creativity and innovation and manage change. Change is inevitable, and the increased pace of change in today's environment has led to greater issues for leaders struggling to help their organizations adapt. Leaders who can successfully accomplish change typically define themselves as change leaders, describe a vision for the future in vivid terms, and articulate values that promote change and adaptability. In closing, change leaders are courageous, capable of managing uncertainty, and learn from their own mistakes. Next slide. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. Is there any questions? Feel free to ask.
Right, if there are no questions, I'll pause the recording.